Well, Halloween finally ended, and I'm joined by our resident horror expert, Roland, and Michael Myers.
Eh? Eh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not the most sly joke, but I still win for it.
I'm
You
glad
gotta.
he's here. Honestly, I prefer that Mike Myers to Michael Myers. If I had the opportunity to meet one of them, probably, probably that one.
Yeah, I think we would all agree on that. So Andrew, how many Halloween movies have you seen before this?
um, Zero,
Zero.
zero. I'd never,
Well,
I'd
we
never
got the
seen.
language bar up, so might as well
Yeah.
say it. Damn.
Damn, yeah.
Damn.
So yeah, I wasn't really familiar with it. I honestly, for someone like me who I like, I like conceptual, like uh, what are they called? Thrillers. Not I
Mhm.
don't. I like what do they call those? I'm blanking on the word. Um,
Are you trying to
Psychological
figure out like
thrillers.
what you like or
No. I like psychological thrillers that you're thinking about. I don't love gore. Um,
okay.
And like my favorite horror movie this year um, was Cronenberg's movie. God, I suck today.
Oh gosh, what is it? Crimes of the
Crimes of the
Future.
Future. Crimes of the
Yes.
Future. Like that was beautiful to me. I
Yeah.
really like that. This, however, like it. I understand that this has been going on for a while. I like that they brought back Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
She's a great actress. She's really good. The last thing I saw her in before this was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
And like what I really like about her is that she really is willing to play and honor the reality of anything she's in,
Yeah.
even if it's absurd. And there were moments of this that were absurd. What was what I liked about this is that it really wasn't so much about Michael Myers. I liked that they brought in this other character, and I liked him.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know where they take this. I don't know if they're planning to take it anywhere. Does it really feel like Halloween has ended to you?
I think that to bringing in there's a new character that gets introduced who is an actor from the Hardy Boys, and it's very kind of like an 80s sequel vibe for me. But I think it was good way of showing that evil is a presence, it's a thing, and it's very much latched and connected to Michael Myers, but it's not necessarily Michael Myers, if that
Okay,
makes.
so I was a little confused by that
Yeah.
because there's a scene where like he meets Michael Myers underneath a bridge and they sort of interface, and I think he pops in at certain scenes of crimes, and I'm like, so is Michael Myers? Was he there? Was the evil present for those moments, or are we seeing them sort of form a connection?
Yeah.
What was your take on that?
So here's Corey, or that's the character's name at least. Um, and honestly, I think it was a really fun parallel to see Corey's relationship with Laurie's granddaughter. Because it was kind of like Halloween Next Generations. They're
Yeah.
connected, not necessarily by the same trauma, but a trauma in its own type thing.
Yeah, well,
And
that's actually an interesting point, because generationally we carry our parents' trauma to a certain degree because they had their issues and that affected how they raised us. And that is an interesting point to consider when
exactly.
we see this.
I mean,
Um,
these are two people that have grown to hate Haddonfield, the town they lived in, which was such an amazing idea that they brought in Halloween Kills. It's always really been Michael and Laura, it's Jamie Lee Curtis's character and Michael Myers. And
mhm.
it's always been that way. And then even with Halloween, when they kind of, I guess, redid it, it was always that way. And then we get Halloween Kills where they like introduce the town mob, and just kind of have this like surrounding, like they all fucking hate this guy. Like,
Yeah.
excuse the language, but they can't stand this.
Well,
It's
I also
hurt.
I also really liked that as she's walking out of the market, that woman who is also a
Yeah, yeah,
victim
yeah, yeah.
starts talking about like she they start having she has anger directed at Jamie Lee Curtis's character,
Hmm.
which feels very small town, which feels very much like yeah that they're actually expanding upon the reality. I know I was saying I hate world building, but this is another elegant use of it where you're expanding the story in a
Hmm.
sensible, realistic way that follows from the details that we're given to start with.
Yeah.
And that was really neat to see. I
And that
noticed
wasn't some just random person that was in the chair, just so you know. That was actually like a kill that Michael had in the movie prior.
that's what I figured. That's what I
Yeah,
figured. That
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. I also noticed Danny McBride was one of the writers here. Um, and not everybody knows this, but as funny as the guy is, he grew up loving horror and got into the industry just being a fan of horror and thinking he was going to do mostly horror. He's done a lot of other scary, but also funny, scary things. Um,
Like
and I
this is the
think
end. I feel like very
this is the
blunt
end.
that
There was,
line.
yeah, there's more. I mean, it's worth diving into his filmography to see
Yeah.
not what he's acted in, but what he's written and directed.
What he's just like worked a part of I mean, Alien Resurrection, or no, it wasn't Resurrection, it was Covenant, I think, where I believe he was a writer as well, as long as he was acting too in it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, with somebody who has such a love of those classic 80s horror, like, that's who you bring into, like, a reboot or into a sequel, is somebody not who just, saw it or, like, can expand the characters or is, like, was attached to this project and so maybe we should get him for this. This is somebody who he could feel something beyond the characters and the details and say this is what 80s horror is. And I did get an 80s horror vibe from this whole movie, which I gotta hand it to him. That's hard to do because in
Yeah,
my opinion Stranger Things doesn't do that.
very much so. It's 80s, but it's not the vibe, you know?
Yeah.
As somebody that's kind of getting to the slashers, I guess, how did you feel about that very first scene? What were your initial thoughts? Did you predict what happened? Because that's a good
so
opening. That
so
is an
it's
opening. That's an
funny
intense.
because the way they set it up, it felt very much like one of the scary movie openings, and I was like,
Yeah.
I couldn't take it seriously at first. Um, but they get that shot of the staircase and how it spirals up further and further, and I was like, oh, that's that's ominous.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and when I sort of accepted that it wasn't going to be Michael Myers showing up in the first scene, and that I was just going to have to sort of get into this, I was shocked by the result there, and it actually made for a pretty good time jump to the next year, where like
Yeah.
people are divided over whether or not he intentionally killed this kid, or if he really did just have a hard time. And either way, people treat him terribly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to be because it comments on people today who like get canceled or like people only get certain details of a story. And yet in the small town, you either subscribe to this version of the story, in which case he's evil, or you get this other side of the story where it's like, yeah, he had a tough break and now he's just kind of stuck here like the rest of us. And it was
Yeah.
um, it was a smart dynamic, I gotta
That
say.
small town gossip gets lethal.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, as we can see, I mean, this got bad. But I do like what you said earlier about how like this is a town, like this is very much a small town, and like Jamie Lee Curtis does like a good job of, in my opinion, just kind of being this like, I don't know, almost this grandma. Like she's like light and
yeah,
cheery, kind of has this like flirtation going on with one of the police officers, and then immediately is hit with um that shopper outside,
yeah.
just kind of like this grief that will never let go, no matter how much therapy and stuff that she does for herself, the town will always remember, you
Yeah,
know?
I will say I was amazed by this woman's collection of kitchen knives.
I
Just,
know. You would
just
think like
like
at
open
some
a
point
drawer.
she'd be
Here's a
like,
knife, and like use that one. Where's my other knife? And it's like she's got more. It's like
yeah.
clown pulling out knives. It was a it was a knife-a-palooza. A lot of knives in this. And then another interesting thing is like, what's the main guy's name? The character
Corey.
Corey. So there's gore in the movie, but
Yeah.
not all of the gore is the horror and the violence because he has to get his hand stitched,
Hmm.
and the practical effects of like getting the suture in there and the like I was like that's the gore. That was I was totally
Yeah, yeah.
misdirected into that. But it's like an inversion of the genre to be like, yeah, there's also this really unsettling thing that really does happen to people, and it's like to fixate on that.
Yeah.
It's a different element of horror. That it's like, so bottom line, no, I don't have the appreciation for this as somebody who's only seen this movie. Um, I didn't get the full payoff. But having said that, like, I think they put together a quality movie here.
Yeah. How did what are your thoughts of the ending? Did you think it came to like a decent close? Did
Well,
you like that final battle?
yeah, I don't know the mythology about, how he keeps coming back or like what his powers are or anything like that. Um, if anything, it feels like they've left it open to where like Corey could sort of carry the torch. Um,
Honestly, I mean, he was definitely like giving it was kind of like it said in the movies, it's in the eyes, he's lost in this evilness that's like almost no going back. And then the more he kills, just the more powerful. And I liked how it kind of foreshadowed this throughout the movie, because like you get to a point of like, how is this kid not dead?
yeah,
Just that
yeah,
just things keep happening, which is something that is always said about Michael Myers. Like, how is this guy not dead? How does he keep
yeah,
back? How does he
yeah.
keep jump scares? Which just kept happening with this. And it kind of got to a point of like, you look back at it and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I see this happening? Like
Yeah,
the signs are
I also have to say like there's certain things where like people get stabbed or like murdered, and there's like one woman who gets like stabbed into a wall, and she's just kind of hanging there. And
yeah.
at a certain point, I was like, man, murder is something that only happens in movies, and if it happened to me, I'd probably survive it. Like there was so much murder in this. I was just that's the thing that's the attitude that this movie gave me about murder. It's like, yeah, I'd probably survive murder because it's always happening. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
I
That
feel like yeah,
oh, I was gonna say that shot of her getting put in the wall, two things. One, it's this beautiful recreation of like from the first movie where
mm,
Michael pins this guy to the wall and just looks at it almost like it's a painting, you know? Like that's honestly the vibe it gives. But also, if that same knife can go through somebody and stick them to the wall, then why in the hell did it not kill Corey earlier when he
yeah,
was holding that guy and Michael was like stabbing them?
yeah.
He
And so it's like what is the magic here? What's and maybe that's deliberately made obscure so that like we're guessing and it's like it's scary and we can't predict it.
yeah.
Also, like fans who understand how certain magic works, they write all kinds of theories about like why this actually doesn't. They find plot holes, so maybe it's strategically that makes sense. Do you think that this is going to be a reboot? Do you really think that it's over? Maybe Jamie Lee Curtis's involvement is over.
I think that with this timeline, I hope it's done.
Really?
Just because this is the way to end it. Please, like Michael is died many a times and they bring him back, and it's just like this is a good way to do that initial timeline. It's okay to say goodbye. You can do other things with a different timeline, but
So
what
you think that they'll reboot it with
I
Michael
know for a
Myers
fact that
again?
they'll redo it.
You
I
know for a
there's
fact.
I know for an utmost universal fact that in 2 to 3 years times we'll get to see like plans for development of like a new something. because that's just how it goes.
That's
But
gonna be tough because I mean, usually with that, they with a reboot like that, they change the look of things, they
yeah,
change details about the story.
yeah.
So tall order, but
Who knows?
it's
They might even
probably time.
change the Captain Kirk mask. It might even be like a
Is that
more
what that is?
oh, yeah. I'm
Oh
sorry. Yeah, no,
yeah,
you're so basically how the mask came to be, little fun trivia fact
please.
is back in 1977 or whatever year it was. Um they were looking for like cheap masks. They found this Captain Kirk mask that was just like it was like latex, it had hair, and they were like, this we can do something with this. All right, let's tweak this. So they took off the sideburns. They sprayed the hair brown, like they were able to dye it and just kind of like fixed it, combed it all the way back instead of that side part that he has. And they just like spray painted it white to give it a more ghostly feel.
Okay,
But
but it's not like they wrote that into the movie or anything. Like Michael Myers
no, no,
bought
no, 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 no. Yeah. That's just
bought
like
a
it's just like a mask he
yeah.
gets. Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Yeah, because I was wondering what the story is behind that and what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well,
it's
to end this, Andrew, do you think that you'll go back, you'll watch the original Halloween or the first Halloween of this trilogy? Do you think you'll
you know,
continue the slasher?
I honestly I don't think I'll go back and watch all of them.
Oh, of
Um,
course not. Don't. Yeah,
I think at
please
some point,
don't.
yeah, I think at some point I'll watch the original, and if that gets me interested in more, then I'll follow it up. But for having said all of that, this was not a bad movie. I like, and I think it was a respectful end to a long legacy. So we'll see. We'll see. Tell us what you think if you saw it. If you're looking forward to seeing it, you can watch it on Peacock or you can go to theaters still. In the meantime, follow us, comment, like, subscribe, do all the stuff, and we'll be back next week talking about other movies and things.